Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. My name is Tony Fisher, if you've forgotten. I've been away for a few weeks, but I am very delighted to be back with you this morning on this beautiful Naples morning. It's great to have some folks here in the sanctuary with me, Daniel Goodsit in the AV room and John Forsyth, our technology chair. We have one guest joining our worship associate. Chris Sax is here with us in the back, and I am pleased to introduce today's worship associate, Patsy Sax.
Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. It's good to be with you this morning. My name is Patsy Sax, and I'm your worship associate for today's service. If you're new to us, we hope that you'll make yourself known in the live chat so that we can say hello. And we hope that you might email our administrator at office at uunaples.org so we can include you in the regular news blast, which relate all of the things that are going on here at UUCGN. There is so much going on here, so we hope you'll sign up and check out the email notices that are sent out each week. Our news blast offer you links to all sorts of learning and fellowship opportunities. Our Mindful Monday Forum tomorrow evening on March 8th presents Nicholas Little, Legal Director of Center for Inquiry in Washington, D.C. His topic is Science and Consumer Protection, Using the Law to Protect People from Pseudoscience. And that begins at 7 in the evening. And then a week from Thursday on the 18th, at 7 o'clock, Q&A with the minister with a special invitation for folks who are new to our community and who want to find out more about Unitarian Universalism and about our congregation. Look for the details for these and more upcoming events in this morning's Sunday News, or check our website at www.uunaples.org. And now let's settle ourselves into this time of worship with the morning's prelude.
There's so much to appreciate, even when the world seems out of hand. Even when we do not understand, still there's so much. There's so much to be grateful for, even much invitation to breathe. Let us take a moment just to breathe and recognize there's so much. Oh, there's so much. There's so much. It's wonderful, even in the midst of loss and change. There's a chance that something new begins. And don't you want that so much? There's so much. So I know we need it so much. So much.
Welcome to all of you who come with a weary spirit seeking rest. Welcome to all who come with hope in their heart. All who are seekers of a new faith. Welcome to all who come to this time as homecoming. Welcome to all who seek escape from the cares and concerns of their everyday. Welcome. Relax. I invite you to take a deep, sustaining breath with me right now. There is so much to appreciate. Know that your fellow travelers are breathing with you. And know once again, we are not isolated beings, and despite our distance, we are connected in mystery and miracle through the winds of creation to the universe, to this community, and to each other. Let's join in speaking the chalice lighting response. The words are on your screen. In the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the unity we seek. And let's sing along with the Kitsap Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Bremerton, Washington, led by Mike Menifee, in our opening hymn, Just as Long as I Have Breath, by Unitarian singer-songwriter Alicia S. Carpenter. In the beginning. The Revised Standard Version of the Bible begins this way. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God blew over the face of the waters. The wind, the breath of God, was an essential ingredient of that recipe of creation. And so it has borne out scientifically. As Lyell Watson writes in his book, Heaven's Breath, A Natural History of the Wind, without wind, most of the earth would be uninhabitable. The tropics would grow so unbearably hot that nothing could live there, and the rest of the planet would freeze. Moisture, if any existed, would be confined to the oceans, and all but the fringe of the great continents along a narrow temperate belt would be desert. There would be no erosion, no soil, and for any community that managed to evolve despite such rigors, no relief from suffocation by their own waste. The wind, however, brings the earth alive, quite literally. Wind is both the circulatory and nervous system of Gaia, the breath of Mother Earth. And our awareness of this thing that moves about but can only be seen secondhand might have been humankind's first experience with the spiritual. Today we are all too well aware that wind can bring death as well as life through fire, through storm, and through pandemic. The efforts on our lives of not only having to breathe through masks and to keep our distance from one another when we are born as social creatures eager to be with one another, to touch and speak with one another openly, constricts our breath even further through our angst. Most of our communication in this community has been through a medium like this. And as hard as we try, this is not quite as satisfactory as we'd like it to be. And while nothing will be quite like our coming together once again, we can still be connected through the air we breathe. And our ability to breathe together as a community, literally and figuratively, despite our distance. The poet and philosophical essayist C. Joy Bell C. has written, "I am never alone wherever I am. The air itself supplies me with a century of love. When I breathe in, I am breathing in the laughter, tears, victories, passions, thoughts, memories, existence, joys, moments, and the hues of sunlight on many tones of skin. I am breathing in the same air that was exhaled by many before me, the air that bore them life. And so, how can I ever say that I am alone?" So let's take another breath together and join Leah Morris in singing our centering hymn.
Hello, Reverend Tony, and greetings to the UU congregation of Greater Naples. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share music with you again. This song is a call and response, so I hope you'll feel inspired to echo. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
I have so many joys and appreciations to hand out. Those who filled in while I was away, both in terms of pastoral care and worship. I'm very grateful to Reverend Barbara Hansen for filling this pulpit for 3 weeks and telling her tale of Unitarian Universalism, her life as an immigrant, and her confrontation with racism in this country. It was a meaningful story, I think, for all of us, one that we can all learn from. And so blessings, and thank you too for the music, for Stu, and for Sabrina Williams, for Reggie Harris, and Greg, who provided some of the wonderful videos we saw. And thanks for Daniel for making it all happen technically. I'm very much appreciative. So thanks to everyone for all that you did while I was away in February. The world moves on inexorably, and we still hold in our hearts all those affected by the virus, those who are working hard to transform our government into something that feeds us, that feeds the people, both in terms of the real goods we need and the life force we hope for. I have one sorrow to share with you today, and all of us share the grief of Sue Guilford, who has lost another daughter, Jennifer Guilford Saints, to respiratory issues, non-COVID related. Sue has lost 2 daughters and a husband in roughly the last year. And how she moves forward, what life force keeps her going, we can only imagine. Our hearts, our thoughts are with Sue these days. Jennifer died on February 24th in Michigan. So let's take a deep breath as we enter into a time of meditation. I share this meditation from the Reverend Christian Harper, written obviously before the pandemic, but expressing the yearning that so many of us have to be together once again, in not just in spirit, but in body, here in this sanctuary and out on our pavilion and down our hallways, in our meeting rooms. The breath of life is not mine alone. I do not wish to breathe another breath if it is not shared by others. The breath of life is not mine alone. I brought myself to be with you, hoping that by inhaling the compassion, the courage, the hope I find here, I can exhale the fear, the selfishness, the separateness I keep so close to my skin. I cannot live another moment, at least not one of joy, unless you and I find our oneness side by side, somewhere among each other, somewhere between the noise, somewhere within the silence of the next breath. Let's share some time of silence together.
When I hear your voice, I almost cry. And when you laugh, it makes me sigh. When I read your words, I wonder why we're together now, more than ever now.
And though distant you may seem to be, you really aren't so far from me. I can feel you here right where I am. If you close your eyes, maybe you can
Sing to me now, sing me a song, the one where the mountains and the sky when I see your face. Oh, how you shine, a precious light, a star divine.
How your beauty just reflects back mine. Hold out your heart like a lifeline.
Sing to me now, sing me a song, the one where the mountains and the sky come crumbling down, and still we stand side by side. I say to you now, I sing you a song, the one where the mountains and the sky come crumbling down, and still we stand side by side. Side by side.
Our first reading this morning is by Elizabeth Tarbox. She served congregations in Middleborough and Cohasset, Massachusetts, and is the author of Evening Tide Meditations and Life Tide Meditations. Gale Force. Nothing I could imagine, no weather-driven fantasy could quell the thrill of the storm. The cat and I paced about indoors until we could resist no longer. We opened the door and staggered against the wind along the dock and heard the waves cracking and spraying and smelled the marsh's perfume. Smaller birds skimmed the surface and seemed to be able to move beneath the howling wind. Ducks flew into the air and the wind carried them backwards. I wondered how it would feel to be blown off the dock and dropped into the marsh grass. I was keenly aware of the neutrality of the dock. At least 6 feet already had blown askew, wrenched from the piles, and wedged under the remaining boards. A dock that would let go on its own would soon dispose of me. I thought of Thoreau wanting to suck out of all the marrow of life to know it fully. I wasn't fearful or anxious. I was awake, caught in the deeper call of Ruah, the spirit wind, the breath of God that roars over the bay and through my bones. I wanted to be reduced to my lowest terms, my simplest elements, salt water and a few minerals with nothing to hide. My skin contains me just barely. This morning, I wanted to dissolve into the roaring wind, no longer standing in opposition to the elements, but becoming one with them. Now's the time for us to express our gratitude for this community, its work and its vision, and all the ways in which it nourishes our lives, from its welcoming doors and its sheltering walls to its good and generous people, from the sanctuary of its memorial garden to its outreach in the wider community. For all these things and for the ways it works its magic in your life, the morning offering for the ongoing mission of the congregation will be greatly received. Please consider mailing a contribution today. The address is here on the screen, or you can go to www.uunaples.org, where you'll find a donate button, and where you can also find a lot more about this congregation.
Hush, ba-dum, boom, hush, ba-dum, boom, somebody's calling my name. Hush, ba-dum, boom, hush, ba-dum, boom, somebody's calling my name. Hush, ba-dum,
somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do? Hush, ba-dum, boom, hush, ba-dum, boom, somebody's calling my name. Hush, ba-dum, boom, hush, ba-dum, boom, somebody's calling my name. Hush, ba-dum, boom, hush, ba-dum, boom, somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do? Hush, ba-dum, boom, hush, ba-dum, boom, somebody's calling my name. Hush, ba-dum, boom, hush, ba-dum, boom, somebody's calling my name. Hush, ba-dum, boom, hush, ba-dum, boom, somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do? Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Can you hear them calling my name? Hush, hush, oh hush now, somebody's calling my name. I am calling my name. Yes, I do. Calling somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do?
Our second reading, First Breath, is by Adam Lawrence Dyer. The Reverend Adam Lawrence Dyer is the lead minister at First Parish in Cambridge Unitarian Universalist, Cambridge, Massachusetts. He's the author of Love Beyond God, a collection of poetry and reflections focused on Black identity and liberal religion. This is First Breath. That first breath must be delicious. It must be more tantalizing, more intoxicating than any drug, fragrant like no flower will ever be, enticing like no body scent. Yet, without words or memories, how do we know? The first glorious rush of air wants us to keep breathing, wants our hearts to keep beating, wants our eyes to open and see, wants our souls to open and say yes. First breath wants us to live all our life saying, please God, let me live, let me breathe, just one more day until we breathe our very last.
Breath, wind, spirit. In many languages, they go by the same name. In Arabic, it is ruh. Ruah is the ancient Hebrew word that carries the same meaning but adds the context to include the concepts of divinity and creation. Same is true for the Greek word pneuma or the Latin animus, each suggesting not just the movement of air but the very stuff of soul and spirit. In the second of the two biblical creation stories, Genesis 2:7 reads, "Then God formed the man of dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living creature." Creation often comes with a fresh and healing breath, as does recreation. We are not, we Unitarian Universalists, a group of people that usually talk about being born again, But how many of you can remember a time when you had weathered a difficult storm, either literally or figuratively, and coming out the other side had taken that deep breath of relief, of release, a breath that marked both the end of one thing and the birth, or at least perhaps a readiness for the next? Without breath, there is no life. Our breathing provides the oxygen we need for all the metabolic processes, literally supporting our fires of life. But we all know how breath can mean so much more. As Alexander Lowen writes in his book, The Voice of the Body, breath as pneuma is also spirit or soul. We live in an ocean of air like fish in a body of water. By our breathing, we are attuned to our atmosphere. But if we inhibit our breathing, we isolate ourselves from the medium in which we exist. In all Oriental and mystic philosophies, the breath holds the secret of deepest connection or highest bliss. Yoga teachers and meditation instructors will tell you that breath is life because it contains prana, which they know is the source of all energy. Pranayama is the art of controlling and using breath in such a way that physical, mental, sexual, and spiritual energy are maximized. Yoga guru B.K.S. Iyengar, who helped popularize yoga many, many years ago around the world, once wrote, "When the breath is regular, so is the mind. It becomes attuned to the winds of the universe." I don't know about you, but in those times when I have personally felt attuned to the winds of the universe, experiences one might call transcendent, there was certainly an element of breathing, regular but somehow deeper and fuller, like the unencumbered breath of a child. For this Unitarian Universalist congregation, connection between breath and spirit doesn't suggest an underlying duality, or for any Unitarian Universalist for that matter. For us, mind and body and spirit are not separate, but an indication of the rich complexity of wholeness, of being human and living in this world. And yet we struggle with giving it that a name which sometimes stirs us, that which sometimes moves us and keeps us going when life is hard, that which flows through us and binds us one to the other in love and affection. I think about my grandmother, whose life force, so incredibly strong, was exemplified by her boundless curiosity and love of life and learning and books, a force that moved her through 30 years of physical pain from severe osteoporosis with hardly a complaint. I wonder at a few of my fellow students in seminary who somehow managed to persevere and be handed their diploma at graduation even though they struggled with life-threatening cancer. I wonder about the moment that life stirs and quickens in the womb, and having watched it happen, the moment when the life force departs at death. What is that? I sometimes revel in the idea of being connected through time to those who came before and to those who will follow in our footsteps, yearning to know that they will live on a safer and saner planet. I think about the reading from Elizabeth Tarbox in that sense of wanting to become with the elements, one with the elements, whether it is in meeting the power of a gale force wind or being struck somehow by the gentle hush of a breeze through the trees. I wonder at the force of gravity that pulls us together in community here at UUCGN. We hesitate to invoke any force beyond the binding energy of protons, neutrons, and electrons. But we, or at least I, find it hard to reduce our human condition to a bundle of particles in intricate motion. When I feel the force of connection to my family, to you, to the web of creation, aware of being a part of something greater, even if I don't want to attribute it to the breath of God. Henry Nelson Wyman, one of the great theologians of the 20th century and a Unitarian Universalist to boot, spent his life wondering and writing about that force which operates in human experience to sustain it and transform it towards the greatest good. Like many liberal theologians, and especially Unitarians, he believed that ideas about God or spirit had to be grounded as scientific assertions. And thus, ultimately, he defined the ultimate as the creative energy that works in and through us all, our best moments, binding us one to another in the work of building the common good. It's usually, however, in our not so good moments when we feel that there's something missing. Life takes its toll. We get all tied up for one reason or another, and at some point we might realize that there's something not quite right, something elemental missing in our lives. We put it off to the stresses and strains, the realities of modern life, but that's not all of it. It's physical as well, and a good part of that has to do with how we restrict our natural breathing in response to those stresses. How many of us have closed our eyes at some low ebb in our lives, taken a deep breath and tried to call for some inner spirit that would carry us through another day or even just another hour? For me, I focus then in those times on my breathing and think of my connection through each breath to the lives, to other lives, past, present, and future. Peter Matthewson, in his book, The Snow Leopard, wrote, "No matter how the universe came into being, most of the atoms in these fleeting assemblies that we think of as our bodies have been in existence since the beginning. Each breath we take contains hundreds of thousands of the inert, pervasive argon atoms that were actually breathed in his lifetime by the Buddha, and indeed contain parts of all the snorts, sighs, bellows, shrieks of all creatures that have ever existed or will exist. These atoms flow backward and forward in such useful but artificial constructs as time and space in the same universal rhythms, universal breath as the tide and stars, joining both the living and the dead in that energy which animates the universe." Carolyn Mcdade was one of the many inspirational figures who was deeply involved in the women in religion movement of the 1970s that had such a tremendous influence on our movement. She's also the author of one of our favorite hymns, Spirit of Life. The words and the music came to her in a moment when she felt tired, spent, in her own words, all dried up. In that moment, she called forth a healing breath, and the Spirit came to her. And that Spirit still stirs many of us who sing her song. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots, hold me close. wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me. Come to me. Let's sing.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Flow with the wind, rise in the seas. Move in my hand, giving life a shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
It has been good to be back with you. As always, I am grateful for your generous spirits, for your caring of one another, for your energy and the ways you contribute to this congregation. I hope that you will join us again next week when we'll have a guest with us. I'll be here. Chris Crass, who has lived a life of service in the fight towards racial justice and many other justice issues as well. And I hope you'll sign up for the Saturday workshop that he's offering this coming Saturday as we move toward a collective liberation, understanding ourselves in this world. It promises to be an excellent time. And the service on Sunday and a discussion following, again, I think will serve us all very well. For all of you who have joined us today, I hope you have found comfort here. I hope you'll share it with others if you have. If you have found love, then please give some back to a bruised and hurting world. If you have found your breath, tell others you know a place where they can breathe deeply too. And for now, go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. Take a deep, rich breath. And have a wonderful day.